rescue me yet again. You put me first everywhere. You make me feel better than the mother too.
In America are completely unaware of. It means that we are completely unqualified to be a wife. We're the opposite. We have negative points. And so when we want to battle and have all of these discussions, but in reality, American Black women don't know how to be wives. They literally will ruin a man. And so I strongly suggest that American Black women get proper wife training.
Well, okay, it looks like are the American women a little bit offended by what you're hearing here?
A little. That's love and encouragement and support.
Those are shots fired. And I don't know if it's necessary. But I guess we've been doing that all morning, just firing shots at one another as a way to prove our points. And it's just not, it's very unladylike, to be honest.
It doesn't, none of this is personal. None of this is personal. This is about what our people need. We don't need to be selfish and think that everything is about us personally. Our people need help. These are not shots fired. These are points to clarify things so that we can survive. We're literally going extinct. It's not personal.
I think that what Mary's saying, and I think what some people will feel and some people want, some people like Rose's approach and some people don't. Some people feel like healing and help needs to come from a perspective of more understanding and not feeling attacked, right? So I think the good thing about panels like this is that people get to see different approaches, different ideologies, and pick what works for them.
Well said, Ms. Tia.
Right, so I'm sorry, I don't agree. I don't agree. We don't get to pick. What works is what works, and what doesn't work doesn't work. I'm just randomly
about approaches. That's how we go wrong. But I was specifically referring to.
I'm sorry, I just want to be clear about that. I don't get to say. I just feel like doing what I feel like, and then say that this is what works.
Okay, wait. Okay, wait. Hold on. We got to stop for a minute. All the talk, just so you know, it doesn't get picked up on the computer. When you're both talking at the same time, it literally comes off as jumble. And also, I see two guys that are in the room who haven't spoken for a while. And I'm going to I think John, I vote John and Jeff. They're so polite. Right? So John, what are you hearing? How would you paraphrase what you're seeing right now?
I need to take a water break.
John, let me drink some water.
It's a lot. It's a lot of just.
I can see both sides because both sides are making really good points because you have to be careful on what you choose. So that is very true. I mean, we have to be, all of us have to be a lot more to both sides' point, because I think they were saying it, but I don't think they were, maybe they weren't really understanding that they were saying the same thing, but you have to. There are males out there, right? But there are not a lot of males. Just because it's a male doesn't mean that's the male that I need if I'm a woman, so I need a man. And the same thing as a man, there's a lot of women out there, but that's not the woman I need. I need a real woman, or females, I need a woman. And, we have to be a lot better with our choices. That is true. Also, the reality, sadly, in America is that a lot of the choices that we have out here are crap. And that goes back to us really need to do the inner work. A lot of us need therapy. A lot of us need to, back to Mary's point, we need to start trusting ourselves more to make better decisions than what we've been doing. I mean, really what it all boils down to, we need to work. We need to work on ourselves and have that flow out and to again make better choices, because you can't keep making the same choice and then wonder, why am I in this situation? I can't find anybody. Blah 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 blah. It's just like, well, you keep doing the same thing expecting a different result. That's called insanity. That's insane. I have 3 kids now. Man, I can't find no good man. Well, what the hell? What's going on? I have different baby mamas, man. These women ain't work. Bro, that's you. That's not
Okay.
them. That's you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Jeff,
So
Jeff,
I'll-
what are you hearing?
Yeah, so just to go, it's funny, John. You tuned into Tennessee when you did a little bit of that. But just to remind you, I remember Ro telling us in a panel, you're not a man until you're 35. So John, you're not a man yet. I still got 10 years left. Boy, she only been a man for a few years. But besides that, it's interesting because you're hearing a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different things, and I tend to not think that that it is a one-size-fit-all kind of thing. I hear No Malangam kind of say it, and I hear Rose saying almost like it's a one-size-fit-all. If you do X, Y, and Z, this is how you'll have a happy marriage. This is how you'll be happy. And I'm not so sure that's true because, like you said, there are a bunch of different approaches to things. And last I checked, I'm not for sure. I've never lived in these places, but everybody in Africa that were married, there are divorces in Africa. There are divorces in France.
No.
So I want to say that, like, I do believe that there are divorces in these other places that taking these models.
No,
So
one in 1,000.
Rose said you're saying there's no divorce in Africa?
1 in 1,000.
But my point is, it still happens. So what I'm saying,
No, it's a bad point.
But what about happy marriage though? I mean,
Thank you. That was what I wanted to say, Dr. Boyce Watkins. What about happy marriage?
I think healthy marriages are important, and I also think it's important to show people.
Well, hold on. Mary, then Tia.
You can be happily single. You can be happily single.
Well, hold on, Ro. Hold on. Go ahead.
Happily single.
I think that we are putting way too much emphasis on just the institution of marriage, as opposed to people being bonded together in love with one another and being able to grow, having a healthy relationship. And I wanted to interject and say this one thing that I just do not like about this panel is one of the things that I found that we have in the United States of America. America is a melting pot. And so you get everybody that come over here from all of these other countries. And we have black people on a whole lot of different continents. But what I hate to see, which I saw a lot in New York City, because a lot of New York black people, they're not just like black and white down south. They are Nigerian, Guyanese, they're Jamaican, and they identify heavily with their culture. And you always see people hating on one another and waving their cultural flag and belittling other black people. And I just don't like it. I think it's divisive. I think it's ugly. I don't think it's uniting. We can all have our perspective, and we're entitled to your perspective. But just to totally turn your nose up to other people,
it is not that.
Put everybody in a lump sum and say that this group of people is that, and that group of people is this. Sounds like white America and what they do to us.
It's not that. Whoa. It's not that. It's just matriarchy versus patriarchy. Ugly. It's really not national versus anti-American. It's just that patriarchal people cannot coexist with matriarchal behaving people. It's not that they don't like, or we don't like Black Americans. It's just that you have a very disrespectful and breaking down way that we cannot get with because we are patriarchal. It's not. Nigerians against Americans. No, it's not.
And so to put me in that kind of, I was agreeing with you, Miss G, very early. I agree with everything you said, and you gave me props because I got a little bit of French in me too. So all of that is just silly. I think that everybody is individuals. We all do need our healing. Check out Miss Tia. She does that healing work because we all need some healing in the Black community. I don't deny that. This
individual attitude.
I would never look at either one of you guys on this panel and turn my nose up to you because you live in a different state or have a different. None of that.
The individual attitude is exactly what we're referring to. Calling everyone an individual and saying that we operate as individuals is the matriarchy that patriarchal people try to avoid. It's pretty simple. No, we don't operate as individuals. That's why we keep winning.
And I just
okay. No, Malanga, go ahead.
And then I'll go after.
Yeah, and then Tia.
Can I just say, I just want to keep emphasizing that it's very, very important to open what works and what has been proven to work, and then look at what hasn't worked. And what builds up the mindset and the patterns and so forth of what doesn't work. So to point out something that doesn't work isn't attacking anybody. It's just pointing it out that this worked. And I think how we personalize things is, family is imperfect. You could probably find some skeletons in our family if you dug deep enough, okay? And that applies to almost every family, okay? So nobody has ownership of perfection and everything being okay. But I still stand on, we should be able to say what works and what doesn't work. And if a person happens to identify around here that everything that they've known is what doesn't work, it does happen that we become very emotional and all these other things. And I understand that. So I never take it personally, even when I get attacked and told that I'm being a certain way. I'm a human. If somebody says, but I think that's why I keep saying it's very important not to personalize things and stay focused on what has worked, what does work, and then see how you can change or heal or whatever it is based on what works.
Okay.
When we're on other subjects, you don't get to go into a like a science class and say, well, my thing is that equation doesn't equals to that, because it has a specific outcome, right? And the same thing is that it applies here, maybe just not as specifically. But if you really dig in and you study these things, you will see that there are patterns of behavior that people who have been successful for hundreds of years have exhibited. And then there are patterns that people who have been successful exhibited. But you see yourself in what hasn't worked and you feel attacked. So I really understand that.
So let's go to Tia. Tia, it looked like you had a response.
Yeah, no, and I think that this is a really good conversation. There are a lot of points that I think John hit it best. We all agree on. And the biggest issue that's been triggering is when people feel like it's personalized and that messages aren't delivered with respect. Not that there isn't a need for change and there isn't a need for growth and that there are some tools that are needed. I think the thing that's missing here is that from Nomalenga and Rose's perspective, which is very concrete, is like this is the result. But what's missing in the conversation is the process, right? So how do you get to a point where, you can, and Boyce, you spoke to this too, treat people with trust and be treated in a manner that feels loving and respected when you're dealing with a group of people who have been largely traumatized. And we mention it, but we also skip over what that means in day to day, right? So we have women who've experienced trauma. We have grandparents and uncles and aunts who've experienced trauma. We have guys who've experienced trauma, and now we're supposed to go from A to Z. So I think that some of the challenge now is like, what are the tools that help you transition from I want to be in a relationship where I feel respected and trusted, and I can be relaxed, and I want to be treated with respect as a man and treated as a leader, but I don't have all of the tools. And the women don't feel like they have all the tools. And I think that that's the next step, because you can't jump into, okay, all of a sudden, I'm just going to be trusting. All of a sudden, I know how to be a lead. It's grooming, and that's the thing that we're missing. And those are, I think, what more of our conversations need to be about, when we're going forward. What are the things that we're not telling our men, that men aren't talking to men about? What are the things that women aren't talking to women about in terms of practical tips, steps, things that we have to process emotionally? Boyce, you said something that I thought was very profound, and I hear it a lot with my clients as well. If I make a mistake, it's the worst, or if he makes a mistake, I'm not going to be able to trust him again. And that's just not how it works. So I think that conversations about the process are what's needed.
Well, what's funny to me, I'll say this, is that I'm still having a hard time figuring out how matriarchy, if you look at the definition of matriarchy, is a system that is led by women, and the definition of patriarchy is a system that is led by men. And one of the things I have observed is that it's hard for matriarchy and patriarchy to exist at the same time in the same space. And some of that from my experience comes from the fact that men, we're territorial, and the energy you get from us is going to change depending on the situation we're in. So if we're in a situation where we feel like you're competing with us, like you're constantly barking and fighting for territory and power, then at least my reaction as a man, I think a lot of men might agree with this. My reaction as a man is either I'm going to confront you and fight you for power, or I'm going to leave and let